Okay. All right. Good evening. Special call meeting with Board of Trustees of United ISD. Today is Monday, December 21st, 2020. Time is 6:30 p.m. If I can have the board members that are present there at the boardroom and online state their name for the record.
Ricardo Molina Senior.
Alisa Olidaros.
Juan Roberto Ramírez.
Ricardo Rick Rodriguez.
Javier Montemayor.
Frank Castillo.
All right. And myself, Ramiro Vélez. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called and a notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
Listen to the flag of the United States of America and to
The Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
Flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee,
Texas, one state,
under God,
Under God.
indivisible.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll begin with, I understand we do have some public comments. We have members of the public that are logged in. If I can have Mr. Agustin Ballesteros, if they're logged in, we can start with him. Do we have Mr. Agustin Ballesteros logged in?
yes, we do.
Good evening,
Hey, Coach.
board members, Mr. President. My name is Agustin Ballesteros, and I have served the district for 47 years. And the purpose of me addressing you all tonight is I would like to ask you to have a committee for our superintendent. I would like to correlate it with the bond of 2013. And you say, well, what does that have to do with superintendent? Well, I was a member of that 121 member committee, and we came together and we worked together. It was 121 members from the whole district, and in the end, we built 14 schools, 6 in the north, 8 in the south. 2 of those were, redone. Nye in the north and Salinas in the south. And the purpose of the correlation is that because of this 121 committee, we took it to the community and we asked the community for help. And it is one of the greatest achievements of UISD history. Building 14 schools with, $409 million. And we put it to good use. We did teamwork. We worked together. It was not about, us. It was about, doing away with 324 portables that our children had to study in. And I ask you now, we need to form a committee so that we can come up with the best candidate. After 16 years, Mr. Santos has done a great job. I had the opportunity to work under different superintendents. And let me tell you one thing, I am proud today. I am united strong, and I will always be there behind you, for you. I know that you men and women have done tremendous things for our children. This is about education. So my closing remarks, please, for the sake of our children, have a committee, because that committee will communicate, will input information so that in the end, our board will once again make the right decision so that we can continue to achieve greatness. Our kids are doing excellent. We have excellent report cards. I am proud of that. And I would just like to thank you for listening to my words. I am here to help you. I'm here to help the children. I love United. I'll always, I serve under, 3 high schools. So I know what our district needs. Please take that in mind. Do you have any questions of me?
Not at the moment, Mr. Ballesteros. Appreciate the remarks. I don't know if any other board member has any
Well, thank you, sir.
questions.
Thank you
Thank you
for,
very much, sir, for the comments.
okay.
All right, so we'll proceed with Mr. David Pettis. So, Mr. Pettis, are you logged in?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Pettis.
My name is David Pettis, United Classroom Teachers Association President. I'm a teacher at United High School, a parent of 2 current and 1 former UISD student. I'm also a taxpayer, and I want to echo what Coach Ballesteros said, that we should have a committee, a blue ribbon committee of teachers, parents, and taxpayers. And I think this is important to have public input in the interest of public input and transparency in the selection of our new superintendent. I ask that you let us have that time for this very important step that we're gonna take. The next superintendent is going to be leading the district for many years to come, hopefully, and he or she is going to face a lot of challenges. We're coming out of this pandemic, and we have to see what's going to be the new norm. The decisions of the superintendent are going to have far-reaching effects on the students, the taxpayers, parents. So I think we deserve a say in the selection of the next superintendent. Thank
Mr. Pettis, thank you very much for logging in and for the remarks. Next, I think we have Mr. Juan Avila. Are you present, Mr. Avila, logged in?
Good evening, Mr.
Good evening.
President Bellis and
Sir.
board members. First of all, before I start off my time, I would like to, Mr. Ramirez, it's always a pleasure to see you, sir. I would like to say, first of all, Merry Christmas to everybody. May the Lord bless each and every one of us, our families. Please stay safe, and God bless you all. And hopefully, better things would come in the 2021, and we get rid of this pandemic. To the item on the agenda tonight, I want to echo the words of Coach, and I want to echo the words of Mr. Pettis as well. As you all know, I had four former UISDs, 3 Alexanders Bulldogs. I had 1 Longhorn graduates. I'm proud to be part of the UISD. I remember the last time we had the last ceremony up at Kruger Field there on Del Mar. It was the class of 2020 when Mrs. Molina brought that class. That's many years ago. 2000, I'm sorry, the 2000 class. I mean, that's many years ago. But yes, I'm still a strong believer in the United Independent School District. I humbly ask, and that's why I had been trying to reach out to you, Mr. Bellis, because of the fact that I strongly believe that the public, the taxpayers, we need to have a say-so in the selection of the incoming superintendent. And I'm going to say it in Spanish. I'm going to try to translate it, but we got to remember the shoes that the next superintendent is going to fill in are pretty big, because Bobby Santos, Mr. Santos, has left very good, outstanding performance in UISD. We've had some rough times like every district does, but he has managed, along with his associate superintendents and everybody else with the team, to come forward and continue focusing on the problems that we have. But again, let's be strongly committed. Let's be committed to the people out here in the community, because this is not el viejo patrón. This is not a political issue. This is the future education of the future leaders, not only of Webb County, but around the world. Because sometimes our students from here have to go elsewhere to look for further up their education or their job sites. But we must remember that they are UISD, they are Laredo proud, and they are our future leaders. So I ask you to please form a committee to where we can have an input or send in our questions and hopefully get some answers. Who is going to be the best fitted superintendent to fit those shoes? I don't think we're in a rush right now to get a superintendent because Mr. Santos still has, I believe, up till June. So let's take it carefully. Let's look at it correctly. Let's make the correct choice and the correct decision. And I keep my word, and I posted it. I strongly recommend Gloria Rendon as the next superintendent for UISD. There's nobody else that has helped Mr. Santos shine that star in UISD the way she has. I thank you. I humbly thank you for the time. And again, Merry Christmas to all of you, and may God bless y'all. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Avila.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Avila, for the remarks. Happy holidays as well. We'll
Thank you,
move
sir.
on to, yes, sir. Ms. Sylvia Bruni, are you logged in, ma'am?
Yes, sir, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening.
Can you
How are you
hear?
doing, ma'am?
I am fine. Thank you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much. Hello?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, I'm working off my phone. Thank you so
Yes.
much for giving me an opportunity. I'm really, really grateful that I'm able to share with you what I think is so important. And frankly, I'm going to basically ditto everything that I've heard so far. I was particularly impressed with Mr. Ballesteros because his recommendation brought me back to that very task force. I was very fortunate. I co-chaired that overall committee. I sat with Mr. Ballesteros, and it was a really marvelous community-based activity. And I think we're still reaping the rewards. Board Member Belize, I'm going to urge you to consider and to take heed and follow through with what your community is recommending. I think it's, no matter when, it would have been so important for you to select the best, in my opinion, instructional leader, because your superintendent is going to be your top instructional leader. And at the same time, I think it's really important that your community that you hear from the community. I'm particularly hopeful that you will allow your principals and your teachers, because they're the front line. If anybody is a hero right now, it's your principal and your teacher. And so I'm going to endorse what Mr. Ballesteros recommended, what has already been recommended to you by my three previous colleagues. Please consider, please move on a community-based group that will help you search and evaluate the candidates. I think it's going to be very, very important that you be led by community. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, I began my career with United. I served 22 years, the first 17 as a teacher. I was your very first senior English teacher. I'm very proud of that. I learned so much from my children and from my young people. I taught seniors from United for 17 years. And then I went on to an assistant superintendent position there. I went on to serve 40 years in schools. And so I think I know what we speak of. I'm particularly emphatic. You need a strong instructional leader. But I think you also need to hear from your community. And I'm going to be very hopeful that you do exactly that. Pick a community group that represents United, and you won't fail. Thank you so much for letting me speak with you. And my wish is that you spend, every one of you, a very safe and joyful holiday. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruni. Always a pleasure. Thank you for the comments. And from here, we'll move. I think we have a couple of individuals that are present at the boardroom. If we can have Mrs. Marta Garcia.
Yes, sir. Dear all United ISD board members and Mr. Santos. Again, I would like to introduce myself to everyone. My name is Marta Garcia, proud UISD faculty member since 1979. Presently working at John D. Alexander High School for the past 26 years, at United High School for 18, and some years at LISD. I've been extremely proud of my profession and my work with UISD, for I have seen that our hard work and dedication as teachers, as a district, as a team, is being paid off by the thousands of successful stories from our graduates. This growth has been thanks to superintendents, board members such as you, good men and women, that serve with the only purpose of promoting excellence in education in Laredo. This meeting, at such a special time where the world is looking up at the sky to see the star of Christmas, which is not going to happen until the next 800 years, and here we are. Board members, you and I are missing such a special time to be with our families, but it makes me wonder what is more important, the education of our children, the future of our children. So here we are, instead of hunting or looking up at the sky. In this meeting, if this meeting is for the form of a committee for selection of superintendent, I would like to ask this committee be a local committee, which can include not only board members, but UISD faculty, since we're the ones in the front lines, students, since they are directly impacted by your decisions, and community members such as parents. If I may also suggest to add professors, not representatives, professors from Laredo College and Tommy U, since many of our graduates attend these schools. They are the best judges of our success and will work hand in hand to make Laredo's children's dream of achieving a college education. Do not go outside of Laredo. Again, do not go outside of Laredo or pay companies to find us somebody, because it's like buying a box of Cracker Jack. When you open it, you don't know what you're getting. We do not have enough money to pass around. Es poco el pan y regalándolo, if we were to hire a company. We are the ones that know our needs. We do not need to bring outsiders. Again, like I said, we do not know who comes from outside. Please remember that United mission statement is united. We inspire all students to become responsible world citizens by pursuing excellence through lifelong learning. And again, by choosing someone from outside or bringing someone to help us choose someone is telling us that we're not doing a good job. I think we deserve an opportunity to show that we can lead. And do not rush into this very important decision, for your decision will affect thousands of our United children and their future. We want and we deserve a local role model, one that we can follow, that we will proudly follow and be proud of. And again, like I said before, behind a great man, there's a greater woman, and I can see many of you men, you know that there's women behind you, and Ms. Gloria Rendon has been that woman in our district. Thank you so very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Garcia. Appreciate the comments. We'll move on to Mrs. Tina Trevino. Is she present?
I am, sir.
Good evening. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. How are you all?
Fine.
First of all, I would like to thank you, board members, for coming and creating this wonderful opportunity for you all to have a discussion about a very honest, sincere, equal pursuit of looking for the right superintendent for United ISD. I've listened to the variety of people that spoke today, and everybody has different views, but they all have the same goal, and that is to have a better United as we go forward with someone new. The individual, everybody has different opinions and or how to get there. As I had said previously, you have two choices. Either way, if you decided to get formal search, you can go and use that formal search company at a minimal price to evaluate and search within. Or you have the ability to go and search not only in Laredo, Texas, and nationally. If that search, in order for that search to be productive, you need to know what it is community's vision is. We don't know your vision. We've not seen that. We've not heard that. But would be our opportunity, the community's opportunity, to give you input as to what we feel would be the best for United ISD. It would give us the opportunity to have a non-biased, honest, procedural direction led by a professional search company. There are a number of them, and I'm sure that you are very well, as I am, of CASB, their whole job is to help boards get good education, get good educators, find the right person with the right match. I had the privilege of working with CASB for many a year in a variety of areas, not just a search. So that's always an option. And then there are some private ones as well. The whole objective is finding the best candidate. Finding the best. And in order to find the best, you need a pool. We have a pool in United. There are a lot of good people here. Let them apply. And let them apply and stand up next to other people in Texas or other people in the United States. We may have some people who work from Laredo who have gone out and are ready to come home and give back to the district that they were taught in. You never know. But in order to get that best candidate, we need the community to help you make a decision on the best things for our district. The decision you're going to make at the final time will be not just for today, not even for tomorrow, not for next year. For the future of the families and children's education. Ask your community. You asked them to vote for you. They trusted you. They voted you. They voted for you. Now you trust them. Trust them to give you the words they want you to say, the decisions you make to represent them. You wanted their vote. Now we, the voters, want our board member to speak for us. They're the ones who put you in that chair. They want the best for their children, for their grandchildren, and for generations to come. I suggest a community committee. Nowadays, they don't call them committees, they call them teams. Okay, so we'll have a community team of educators primarily. Education is what United is about. Business people, the health profession. We've got magnet schools. They're fulfilling, they're right now, there's more people going into medicine than ever before. If there's a positive from COVID, that's it. From parents, they care. You're taking care of their babies. And from students themselves. Ask the present students, but also find some alumni. Find out what would they wish they had done differently? What could they have learned differently? What does United need more? And what were the strengths? Man, I had this English teacher and she was awesome. I had this science professor, he was the greatest. Okay, those things, we need that input. This is your opportunity to know how we're doing, not on those tests, in reality. We want to find a position, a person for this position that will create a positive atmosphere, an embracing atmosphere, and a growing atmosphere. Ask them those really hard questions about decision-making, about budget leadership, about district challenges. Not just asking the questions. Ask me, please, what were one of your successes in decision-making where you took a risk and it was a success? Now, tell me a decision you made that you wish you had changed. We all have regrets. I have shared with you my thoughts, my concepts, and my procedures. The bottom line is the community of Laredo at UISD wants to have a voice, and we voted for you to be our voice, but now is our opportunity to speak for ourselves. The only thing is you have to give us that opportunity. I hope with all my heart that the result of these words will help you, the board for UISD, in meeting your responsibility of taking care of the children, their education, their future. Thank you so very much.
Mrs. Trevino, appreciate the comments. Thank you for stopping by and sharing those words with us. Yes, ma'am. I believe we're done with the public comments. We'll proceed to items for individual consideration. And it's obviously discussion action in regards to conducting search for new superintendent of the schools. Mr. Cruz, I believe you have a presentation you want to share with us.
Yes, sir. We're going to bring up a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to do the first half of it, and then it's a quick one though. And then I just come in, and then you want to go to the first slide. The first bullet of the first slide talks about usually you get recommendations for board operations by from the superintendent, but in this case, well, the superintendent really can't recommend because he's not part of this process. So, you can go through a search firm like it's been discussed or through the Human Resources Department. So let's talk about, first of all, what I call the minimums. So on the next slide that you see there, what does the law require? Well, the law, first of all, requires that the district must provide at least 10 days notice to fill a vacant position for which there's a certificate or license that's required by section 21.003. At the very bottom, 21.003 is defined to include administrators. So the board has to at least publish this vacancy for 10 days, and it has to publish it at a bulletin board at a place convenient to the district central administrative office, or on the internet, on the district's internet website. So that's required posting for at least 10 days. And then on the next slide, the superintendent also has to have the required credentials. That's by law. A person may not be employed as a superintendent unless they hold the appropriate permit or certificate. The second and third bullet allows the district to apply for a waiver in case you want somebody that does not have a certificate. But usually that's never used. On the next slide, you see there, this is the job description that we have currently at UISD for the requirements to be a superintendent at United. You have to have a master's degree in educational administration. You also have to have a valid Texas superintendent certificate or appropriate certification, thorough knowledge of school law, school finance, curriculum instruction, ability to manage budget and personnel, implement policies and procedures, interpret data, 5 years leadership experience in school administration. This is something that the board can revisit at any time and say, you know what, we want to add to this. Like some school districts have, you know what, we want a doctorate. In order to be a superintendent, you have to have that. Can the board add to this? Yes. So long as you comply with the first 2 slides, you know, the minimum legal requirements, everything else, you can add on as you need to, and the job description obviously belongs to the board. Following forward, what if you want to just do a superintendent search by the Human Resources Department? That is an option that you have. You would have to tell the Human Resources what you want in your ideal candidate. You have to provide each employee notice of the vacant position. Usually we do that through emails. And then we have to post the position as well. And on the next slide, you see there that the policy says, basically the local policy you have says that you have to advertise in local, regional websites and in local and out-of-town news media. If you don't want to do that, you can waive the requirements of DC local policy if you think that that's in the best interest. Following forward, after that, you receive the applications. What do you do when they're turned into Human Resources? Well, then they submit them over to you, but they have to conduct the background searches and the reference checks of all of the candidates. The policy says that there should be a committee of central office and campus personnel to pre-screen qualified personnel, make sure that they have the required certification or anything else that you thought was needed. Then the committee, which is in this case is the board, will basically go through the interviews and provide a list of finalists. And then you will conduct those interviews. And of course, questions have to be developed for all candidates that are, basically equal employment opportunity for all. On the next slide, you see there, what do you do after you come up with your finalists? The law requires that you name a finalist, and 21 days after, you can basically execute a contract with that finalist. And it has to be announced. So up until then, everybody that applied for the position is confidential. It becomes public once it is you have the 21-day naming of the finalist. Then that's when it becomes public to everyone. So the last slide that I have here is if you want to go with this direction, then option number 1, and you don't have to write these down because I'm going to have them as the next slide. You would say right now in open session, if you want to go through the human resources, then a board member can say, I move to authorize the school district's human resources department to post the position of the superintendent of schools for a period of 30 days beginning January 4th, 2021 through February 4th, 2021. That is the human resources working internally. Now, Jaime's going to come in here and he's going to talk about the search firm process. Go ahead to the next slide. Hello, everybody. So, conducting a search via search firm, the reason we're here actually presenting to you today, and I usually hear from us in closed session, right? Deliberation on selection of a search firm must take place in open session per Texas AG opinion. A professional search firm is considered a third-party consultant or contractor, so that's why we're discussing this option with you as well. addition to the HR component. Motion, just as Juan mentioned, the recommended motion for the HR component, a motion to hire a search firm will be made in open session as well. Go to the next slide. So fees and scope. So you may wonder, the public may wonder, how much is a search firm? Is it much less efficient? Well, it really depends on the board's decision. The larger the scope of candidates, obviously the larger the fee. One thing that you are benefiting from, even though it's been such a horrible plague on our community, is the pandemic, right? So savings on the search, travel, not going to be happening because of the pandemic, as opposed to regular years. So a lot of these interviews and meetings will probably take place via Zoom. Very important on that second point though, you can direct the search form to search for internal candidates, Laredo citywide candidates, regional candidates. So we're in region 1, for example, or South Texas candidates, or even statewide candidates. You can go to the next slide. What follows is, an example of, a proposal that was received from one of the search firms. So that's what you'd get from these companies. They would lay out sort of their services, kind of break down what's included and not included. The first slide there shows executive search services, their cost for a search that would take place not internally. So it's an external search. You can go to the next slide. So that is a bit of a cost savings for an internal search. Some of the items that are not included on an internal search would be, pulling together all those statewide candidates. So a bit of a cost savings there. You can go to the next slide, please. Typical process would be a little bit different than the human resources component. Obviously, we start with a presentation or proposal to you, so they shop their services to you. The planning phase, according to TASB, which was the creator of the slides on the initial couple pages, average timeline for planning is around 120 days. That's about 4 months, so definitely not something that happens quickly. I think community surveys are also important. You've heard some comments tonight about what they call committees, the town halls. Focus groups are also possible if it was non-pandemic times. But that doesn't mean a search committee, town hall, or focus group can't happen via Zoom. We've been meeting via Zoom for quite some time now as well. Applications would be received by the firm, so not by HR. The board, in conjunction with the firm, decide on questions to ask of the candidates. They pre-screen the applications to make sure that the criteria was met. Juan mentioned some of the job description items. Then initial interviews would be scheduled and follow-up interviews. Again, all this is done in conjunction with search firms, so you'd still be quite involved in the process. Go to the next slide, please. So this motion would be a little bit different. There are some different options within this second option. The motion would read, I move to hire the Texas Association of School Boards to conduct the superintendent search. Again, you can limit the search to internal candidates only, or you can conduct the search on a statewide basis. Those are the 2 agreed contract prices that have been provided to us by one search firm. You can go to the next slide. An additional option would be to go outside of that proposal and direct the Department of Purchasing to issue RFPs. Those RFPs would run sometime from mid-January through mid-February. Again, these are just proposed motions for your review. So in a nutshell, that last slide has the different options that are available to you tonight. The HR component that Juan mentioned, the search firm component that I presented to you on tonight, and the additional option of going in a different direction and opening up RFPs for the search firm process. Do you all have any questions for Juan or myself?
No, sir.
You leave the last slide of that one. You can leave that. Thank you. So I don't know if how you want to proceed, if there's anybody that wants to make a motion or have a discussion on this. Obviously, you have TASB there that has said that they could do an internal or external $6,000 difference. But I keep this in mind because there's a lot of people that talked about committees as well. Obviously, you can direct TASB to establish a committee if you so choose to do that for an internal search or external search. So that could be, you're pretty much the customer, so you would be able to do that.
Mr. Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Cruz, I have a question. In either of these options, whether it's from a private firm or from TASB, would they include community responses or community, I guess, recommendations like parents or teachers?
Yes, they typically do, they'll do what we used to do, Mr. Castillo, before would be town halls, which would basically gather people at a gym or an auditorium. But obviously because of the pandemic, that's not something that probably will be done. It's gonna, you know, if that's the part of the process that you want TASB to do, it probably is gonna be done via Zoom. But yes, you can certainly, if you choose TASB, then the next step in January is gonna be for them to kind of meet with you through Zoom. Butch Feltner is the lead person there at TASB. And you can instruct him in terms of, you know, committees and whether you want how many people and so on and so forth. So.
But my question is whether it's already included in the amount that's being mentioned in these slides.
I believe so. I'll check the proposal out right now, but I believe it is. So okay. Yes.
What I'm thinking one is I like the idea of the board establishing a committee of people across the community, people, maybe educators, maybe business people, maybe appoint anywhere from 3 to 5 members per board member. And they will meet and discuss the needs of the district. I think Ms. Trevino mentioned the division of the district, and I think that's important. Their input is important to that. And we can even establish questions and criteria on a points system. But I'd like TASB to handle that. So would we direct TASB to work with the committee that we've set up to guide the committee? How would that, I know the city had their city manager search not too long ago, and they interviewed a lot of the candidates, and they narrowed it down and presented a list of finalists to the city council. How would that?
Yes, so that's part of Mr. Castillo's question as well. And yes, Mr. Castillo, it does say that part of the TASB proposed fee is to conduct a leadership profile session, which is included in their base proposal. So that would be part, how they get the profile of what you want, what your community wants, is gonna be part of that committee process. You just have to make it, and if you wanna add to that motion, like number 2, at an agreed contract price of blank as provided by the Texas Association of School Boards, to include a community based committee for input, you can certainly add to that option number 2 motion.
So it's either we go internal or we go statewide.
Yes.
We can't go regional.
You could go regional as well. Yeah, you could go regional, but I believe if it's a regional, then you're going to be at the $18,500 figure because the internal is basically the $12,500.
But I'm more interested in.
Let's say, Juan, a quick question. If we, Mr. Go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
Well, I was just going to direct the questions again to Mr. Cruz. What I was looking for is, again, public involvement, perhaps not necessarily interviewing candidates, but having the opportunity to review candidates in some form or fashion. Maybe I'm thinking too far off the box, but yeah, I definitely would welcome input from the public about who the better candidates are, maybe the top 5 that could make my role to make a decision, perhaps more in line with what the community wants.
Right.
Mr. Castillo, just the difference, and I guess back to what Mr. Montemayor also's comments was about the city manager. The only difference is that, remember that, as I stated earlier, the name of everybody that applies for the position of superintendent of schools is confidential by law, by the government code. The only name that goes public is the finalist that you have. So if you do have a committee, then we would have to make sure that those committee members sign confidentiality agreements so that if they know that Juan Cruz or Jaime Garcia is applying for the superintendent of schools position, that is not made public, because I'm not sure what your inclination is going to be, whether internal or external, but that's basically to protect the applicant's employment should they be applying from an outside school district.
Right. Or we can have the let's say we do get community members, form a committee. We go through TASB for them to start doing everything, involve the community members that we form the committee, and we can have maybe get input, have them provide questions to us that we'll direct to the candidates, and then once we have that finalist list, at that point, maybe release the names to them and get more direct questions based on qualifications, based on experience to each candidate. We can always be directing the search firm, in this case TASB, we go that route, right, Mr. Cruz?
Yes. I think if the board chooses TASB to do it internal or external, then I would set up a meeting with the board through Zoom in January as soon as possible so that you can talk to their consultant and then give them your input and your direction about this community committee that you may want to establish.
If I can add, just for the other board members, my opinion on going in-house. I think that the issue of fairness is always going to be, that's going to be a question that's going to be handled, that we're going to be handling. So going through our human resources department, it's going to be rather tough with all the work that they have, all the COVID situation that they're dealing with right now. I would rather that our human resources department stay completely out of it and we hire an independent search firm. I would probably ask that we hire TASB. I don't know if any other board member has any issues, but I think that's just what I'm thinking. Mr. Molina or Mr. Ramirez probably know.
Right.
But
And
Yes, Cruz, how about using
Mr. Molina?
yes, how about using a human resources department to post the position of superintendent locally for 30 days, beginning January 4th to February 4th, and bring the candidates, and if we can decide the local, we can always go statewide or nationwide, whatever. But we'll have the option to give the opportunity to the people from that work at United to have an opportunity to, in other words.
Yes, that would be, Mr. Molina, option number one, the first one that I went through. That would certainly be an option for the board to consider tonight as well. Mm-hmm.
But that would be going through our HR department, and I think that just like Mr. Montemayor mentions, it's not a easy task with everything that's going on right now. That it's going to be an added duty for them. Or can we just have them post and then have TASB pick up the process after, like in February? Is that something that can work that way as well? Or it's rather easier just to start with TASB and get, if it's an internal search or a regional search, and just go with the TASB process?
Oh, yeah. If you do hire TASB, then they will work through HR to publish your position. So
okay.
And if you want it published in texasisd.com, which is kind of the common place for all of these superintendent vacancies, and they also would take care of that. So yeah, it would be probably issued through TASB that they work with HR and give them direction, because we don't have people in HR that has ever done a superintendent search.
I have the experience of working under 3 superintendents that TASB shows, and we didn't have Dr. Barber was one of them, and we had a lot of trouble, and TASB recommended them, and then Dr. Nelson and other people they recommended, and they haven't recommended good people because they have problems at the district with them. I think the human resources, we have something here locally. Why have to go to TASB when we have the human resources, and the option is for them to to pick up all the applications that they apply. In other words.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'll make a motion then, I'll make a motion to hire the Texas Association of School Boards to conduct the superintendent search. Option number 2 at an agreed contract price of $18,500 as provided by the Texas Association of School Boards.
I second the motion. Ramirez seconds the motion.
Okay, Mr. Montemayor, would that be, would you be interested in just an internal search or a regional search, or you want to go statewide, or what would be the specific search criteria?
I certainly would welcome all our internal candidates to apply. I think a regional search, somebody who has the experience at dealing with the unique challenges that we have here on the border, the economically disadvantaged, the limited English speaking students, those types of challenges that we deal with, or that the school district deals with. I'm looking for somebody who has that unique experience. I don't think statewide we're going to get. We're probably going to get a lot of candidates, in the 30s, 40, number of candidates. But I'm looking for somebody a little more familiar with what we have here. I'd love to see internal candidates only, but I don't want to exclude any talent either. Whatever y'all.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Oliveros.
Yes, and unfortunately, I don't have the experience of having worked with TASB in a superintendent search. At what point, obviously, TASB doesn't make the decision. It's the school board who ultimately takes the vote and takes responsibility for whom they hire.
Right.
But does the process at all involve, at any point, input from a committee, a local committee, or is it completely given, just the recommendation completely given to TASB?
No, I think Ms. Oliveros, once TASB, if they're hired, then they'll meet with you and give you their ideas, and obviously you can give them yours about how you want the leadership profile of the superintendent to be compiled, and how you want the community to be involved. So they would go to the extent of basically building your leadership profile with the board's input, of course, and then whatever community members that you would want to get involved. But you're going to have to give them some direction coming up in January.
Right.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Right.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Are we at any point where TASB can actually make a presentation to us, Mr. Cruz, or that's completely out of line before I make a final decision or a decision?
No, Mr. Castillo, definitely. If you think that, you want them to make a presentation, obviously through Zoom, they will go ahead and do that. So, option number 2, if it does pass, then we'll set them up as soon as possible, that you have time to do a Zoom meeting with them. And then if you want to continue that relationship, then you can. And if you don't want to, then you go out and either do it through the Human Resources Department, or you let out a request for proposals so that you get other search firms also to submit what they can do for you.
For that matter, also our Department of Human Resources, are they able to make any type of presentation to us?
Oh yes, I'm sure David Garcia can tell you what they're doing, what they're dealing with, and whether or not they have the capacity to handle this search.
Mr. Cruz, is there a motion already?
There is a motion.
Well, let's go ahead.
All right, so we'll vote. It's Mr. Montemayor. Just to reiterate, made a motion for option 2, search to be conducted by TASB, Texas School Association of School Boards, and for a regional search, which would be, do we have to specify, Mr. Cruz, like region 1 or?
Well, it'll be the region 1 is our region.
Okay, yeah, region 1.
Unless you want to include the Corpus Christi area, then we can make region 1 and add Corpus Christi.
Ramiro, and Mr. Cruz, I think I kind of agree somewhat with Mr. Castillo. I think, we've never done with, well, I've never experienced dealing with TASB, but I think the community also, I mean, and I agree also with Mr. Molina and somewhat, because actually, yeah, we can go with item number one, but the only thing is that I know we want community involvement. And I think every comment that we had, we put all the community aside, and now we're making a different decision on what we want to do, unlike what Mr. Montemayor wants to put out. But, I just feel that for right now, I think before I can make a decision, I think we need to get a little bit more educated with the human resource and with TASB, what they want to do before I guess I can make a decision also.
And then if I may add another comment, I asked the previous question because it was important to me that the community be involved. And I think TASB is very reputable.
Right.
I don't think I know. And not only that, but it will be transparent. So you have the best of all worlds. You have a win-win-win situation. You have community involvement, you have a reputable search, and you have transparency, which is of utmost importance here.
Right.
So I think we need to look at that.
Right. And I think we have to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cruz, but I think if we go with TASB, we would be able to pretty much decide exactly how we want the process. Obviously, get their input, get their experience, but we can say, okay, the community is going to get involved. I believe all the board members are in favor of that, to have community input from throughout the district. Obviously, faculty from our schools and parents as well. So we can definitely have TASB, have the community involvement, even though we're going through TASB. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's going to be kind of a board driven, and if at any time it's you don't like the direction TASB is going, then it's your job to tell them differently and to redirect them in terms of what you'd like them to do. But I think the initial meeting, if you decide to go with TASB, then it's important for you to say exactly what you think that this process should look like.
Right.
Mr. Cruz, I have a question, Mr. Cruz. The last 3 superintendents, we never went through TASB, and Tina Trevivo was on the board. They hired Dr. Barber, they hired Mr. Rodriguez, and they hired Mr. Santos. They never formed committees, they never formed anything. The board made a decision and they hired. So, they're coming out now that that's the process before. It was on the process. TASB was never used because I was on the board since 96. So, like I said, the ultimate decision is the board. And, we want input and everything, but like I said, I like to use human resources department to post, and then we have a lot of time until June, so we have enough time to look at our local internal candidates, and then if the board doesn't agree, we can always go to the search statewide. But we have, everybody said, we got time. Don't get in a hurry. So that's my I know Mr. Montemayor has a motion, but I like to make another motion if when he gets through.
Right.
Okay. Well, if I may add one more comment, I know
Yes.
Mr. Molina is saying that Tina Trevino did not hire anyone solely by herself. I'm sure it was a board vote. Otherwise, it would have never happened. So you need to take responsibility for what you did.
It was a board that Peggy Newber brought in to get to get Eddie Perales out and get Dr. Barber in. So
okay, again, and that's why transparency is key. Transparency is key, and the only way to do it is to have an independent firm with community input. There is no other way.
How about human resources? What's wrong with human resources? They're not transparent, or what?
I don't think our human resources department, Ms. Molina, it's just me speaking, but I don't think our human resources department is ready to go on such an important search. I think if you wrap them up and, we disagree on candidates, that's, we're going to wrap them up into the whole mix of things to begin with. with the whole pandemic, I think they're dealing with the numbers growing every day at their department, and they're working on that and school issues, employee issues. For them to set everything aside and concentrate on the superintendent search, I don't think we have that much time. I know Mr. Santos' contract ends June 30th, but I think ideally it would benefit the district to have somebody in a superintendent position by April, so there can be a smooth transition, and he or she can work with Mr. Santos to get that transition out. Mr. Santos has days, I guess, that are accruing that he would probably take sometime early June.
I already spoke to Mr. Santos. He wants to get paid for the days.
Then
Okay.
if he decides to stay, so yeah. But I don't think we have that. I think,
Right.
this is a good start for the process. I think this is a good place for us to have the discussion now.
Okay.
But,
I gone to
Okay.
I gone to TASB for 3 superintendents, and like I said, they brought Dr. Barber, they brought Dr. Nelson, they brought all these people, and they didn't come. They didn't. They weren't what we expected. In other words, so or what the other boards expected. So they go. It's not very. What they recommended was very. They were highly recommended, but they weren't good.
Good candidates.
And Mr.
Right.
Rodriguez also, the other superintendent they got.
Ramiro, so what's on the board, what's on the table?
All right, so let's.
I'm gonna
let's,
call the question, please.
I'm sorry?
Take the vote, please.
Yes, yeah, okay. All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Montemayor and a second by Mr. Ramirez to hire TASB to conduct the superintendent search, be a regional search. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Ramirez, aye.
All right, so that's, we have Mr. Montemayor, Mr. Ramirez, Alisa,
Alisa.
aye, and myself, aye. All those against?
Aye.
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 3 against, 4, motion passes. So we will go ahead and hire TASB and start the process through them. Will be a regional search. Mr. Cruz, with that option, we'll meet first with them and then we'll decide when to post. Is that correct?
Yes, so our next step is gonna be for me to get in touch with Mr. Felkner and maybe the first week in January, get with your schedule so that we can have a special call meeting between the board and TASB to
Right.
go over your ideas about the search process.
Okay. All right, so, okay, so we'll move on to closed session. At this time is 7:33 p.m. and make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071. And we'll be approximately back within 15 to 20 minutes.
Mr. Belize, we're ready. We're back on the record.
Okay. All right. Item 7, reconvening from closed session. The board will take appropriate action on items if necessary. As discussed in closed session, there is no action needed. Before we adjourn, I would just like to extend a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to my fellow board members, to Mr. Cruz, to Mr. Garcia, and Mr. Santos, Mr. Rendon, and all you guys, the administrators, our faculty, and our students. Difficult start to the year, but I think everybody's doing a great job, great teamwork, and I look forward to this upcoming year and to continuing the success of our great district.
Amen.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
I want to wish everybody, all the administrators, in the schools, the teachers, and all the workers. Merry Christmas.
I wish all the employees and principals and directors and everybody, all the United family, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, especially the board, all of us.
Hey, no se acabe.
I
All
hope
right,
we get,
guys.
I hope we get an extra pay next year.
You're probably gonna get a raise like a Social Security. Yeah.
All right. All right. So the time is 7:58. I move to adjourn this meeting. Again, thank you very much and good evening.
Second motion.
Good night. Bye bye.